You're watching Andy Tube, and I would like to show you how to thread the needle and bring up the bobbin thread on this Singer Model 338. And as with some of my other demos, I'm going to assume you've never done this before. So those of you who have done it before and know, just be patient while the beginning sewers learn how to do this. We all had to learn in the beginning. So this is one of two possible spool pins. There can be another one here in the center of the cam cover, or there can be two, or this one could be over here. Wherever it is, you want to put your spool of thread up on there. Okay, that's what the spool pin is for. And you know what? I'm going to take it off for a second, and I'm going to show you some of these parts up closer. Okay, you may have seen this part in my bobbin winding video. This is the arm cover thread guide right there. And this lever, when you turn the hand wheel towards you, you'll see it goes up and down. That's the thread take-up lever, the needle thread take-up lever. And it has a hole through it on the end of the lever for you to put the thread through. As we're coming down here, I'll show you this tension area, okay? And this, let's see if I can get in a little closer here. Yeah, that's better. This is the upper thread guide. This kind of U-shaped loop. And this piece is what most people don't know how to use, but you see that big bend of beautiful chrome steel here? That is called the tension thread guide. And it's because it's made for you to just put the thread across the front of that and pull it towards the tension unit, so the thread will slide right in between the tension discs. So that's the tension thread guide. Over on the other side here, we have the check spring, or the thread take-up spring. And that helps keep tension on the thread while the needle is penetrating the fabric. So you'll hear me mention that. And that works in conjunction with this little guide finger, the tension disc guide finger. So the needle thread, when it comes up here, has to get arranged properly on that tension spring or check spring, and the thread is going to slip over that little finger and lay in the lower part. And then around on the front of the nose cover is the nose cover thread guide. Right there, that little piece of bent wire coming out there at an angle. And then as we go down, you will see another kind of pigtail wire on here. That's the needle bar thread guide. And then you'll see the needle holder here with the thumb screw to hold the needle, and the needle coming up into the bottom of it. But you'll see a slit or a slot right there. And that is the needle holder thread guide. So we've got our needle holder thread guide, our needle bar thread guide, our cover plate thread guide. We have our take-up lever. We've got our check spring and thread guide for the disc. We have the upper thread guide. We have our tension thread guide that most people don't know about. And we have our arm cover thread guide. And we have 1 or 2 spool pins. Ta-da! Okay, so let me back out here now and give you a better overall view. Okay, and there. So you put your spool of thread up on the spool pin that you're going to use. Thread coming towards you or thread coming from behind, doesn't matter. Then you go hold your thread and go from back to front on the arm thread guide. Okay, and you can pull off some slack down here. I usually pull enough to get down to my sewing surface, but then you're going to want to keep tension on that thread. So I usually just push it against the machine with my thumb right there. Then I take the thread back against the tension thread guide and slide it left, and it just, look at that, it just goes boom right between the tension disc. Boom. Perfect. Then still holding it tension on the thread up here, I'm going to bring it over against that check spring and lift it up and to the right to get the thread around that finger of the thread guide, tension disc thread guide. So here we go, and you might hear a click. Yep, no click. But let's see if, yep. And this would be a really good point to tell you, I forgot to show you and tell you about the presser bar lifter. This lifts the presser foot up off of the feed dogs, but the other important thing it does is open up the tension over here on the tension disc, and you need to do that before you thread the needle. I guess I'm just such a habit, I forgot to tell you about that. So watch these discs, see how loose they are there. As I lower the presser foot lifter, you see it come forward and make them tight, and that's how you sew, with tension on the needle thread. But when you are going to thread the tension unit, you have to have it open and loose so that the thread will easily go between the tension unit. If you don't have that open and loose, the thread will not go between the disc and you won't have tension, and you're going to be real frustrated. So I should have shown you that at the beginning, and I didn't, and I'm sorry. But you know about it now. So after you have this lifted up and over that little finger, you can go back behind the upper thread guide, and you can thread the thread take-up lever, and it goes from front, from right to left. And it's usually, this is why they will tell you to have this raised to the top. You don't want it halfway down the lower, you want it up towards the top. So let me zoom in here and I'll show you a closer picture now that that threading is done. Let's zoom in a little bit there. So I'm going to pull on that thread, and you're going to see that check spring or tension spring bobbing up and down there. As close as I can go. And that's exactly what you want. That's designed to keep tension on the needle thread up to the point where the needle enters the fabric. Okay, so we've got that done properly. Now, if you pull off about a foot of slack or so, if you like, you can lower that presser bar lifter, lowering the presser foot and putting tension back on here. I like to do that, but then we're going to come here and snap this thread into the thread guide on the nose plate, and you just do it from front to back. Okay. Now we're going to continue down to do the last two. Maybe get a better spot on that. Do the last couple of thread guides. I will zoom in there. So remember the needle bar thread guide? It's like a little pigtail of wire, and the little slot on the needle holder. So that's the needle holder thread guide. So for this little pigtail on the needle bar thread guide, just come over the top. Whoops, you can't see that. Come over the top of it with your thread and pull from right to left and then left to right, and you end up with the thread in the little pigtail hole of that thread guide. Alright, then for this last thread guide, just the little needle holder thread guide, the slot there. The slot's open on the right, so just take your thread in from right. See, I can take your thread in from right to left through that little slot. Jeez, I'm just going to block it, I guess. Take it in there from right to left and down. Very good. Okay, then we're going to raise our needle up high enough to see it here, and we're going to thread the needle from the front to the back. So the thread comes down, right down all these thread guides, right in line with the needle, and you thread the needle by putting the thread from the front towards the back. I won't make you watch me do that. Okay, I got it. Felt like it took me a couple hours, but anyway, I have the thread through the needle from the front to the back. Right? So now I'm gonna, well, I guess I'll stay at this angle. Maybe that's pretty good. Now what I like to do is lift the presser bar lifter lever back here, back up, raise the presser foot. And what we want to do is bring the bobbin thread up through the hole in the center of the needle plate. It's got to come up there. And the way you bring it up is to hold the needle thread securely, start turning the hand wheel towards you, which is going to start the sewing cycle, and that's going to go down, and the hook's going to grab it and wrap it around the bobbin thread, and then you pull up, and you pull up the bobbin thread. So I'll just use this to slide it out here. Okay, so if you remember, the tail was coming out of here. I can get this down for a better view maybe now. Yeah. So before the bobbin thread was coming out this slot, now it's coming up from the hole in the center of the needle plate. And then we're going to take both threads between the toes of the presser foot, and we're going to pull them to the back, either on the right side or the left side whatever you're comfortable with. But we now have the bobbin thread threaded through the tension spring on the bobbin case and pulled up through the hole in the needle plate, and we've got the upper thread run from the spool pin to the arm cover thread guide, down through the upper thread guide. We slid it on the tension thread guide so it popped right between the discs. We put tension on it up here with our thumb while we pulled the thread up on that check spring and popped the thread behind the little finger. And we continued up again through the upper thread guide, through the thread take up lever, down through the nose cover thread guide, down through the needle bar thread guide, that's the little wire pigtail here, and then through the needle holder slot thread guide, and through the actual needle from the front to the back. And then we held on to that needle thread while we turned the hand wheel towards us. And I'll do that again, even though I got the thread up. You might be able to see it here as the hook's going to grab that needle thread. It's going back up now. It's going to come down. It's going to grab the needle thread, and right there it's wrapping it around the bobbin thread, which is laying over the top of the bobbin. And when that hook gets to the cast off point, it'll let that thread go to complete wrapping the thread around. There it went. The thread's loose and it's over here, and then it pulls up, and you've just made a lock stitch by the hook grabbing the needle thread, wrapping it around here, wrapping it around the bobbin thread, casting it off to complete the wrap, and you made your stitch. So that's how to thread the needle and to bring up the bobbin thread on a Singer model 338 Turquoise Beauty, and many other vintage Singer machines use this same system. Congratulations, and thanks for watching. I hope it was worth your time and that you'll come back and see me. Take care.